Yes, hello everybody. So today I'll talk about the outbound sorting functionality, part of the warehouse management module in Dynamics 365 for supply chain management. And I think this functionality was added probably, I think, back in June, July 2020. But it's still something that at present time, at the time we are recording this video, that you do have to enable in feature management. After you can see version 10.0.32, it's going to be enabled automatically. But before any versions of that, you will actually have to go and enable it in feature management. So what outbound sorting does for your warehouse management setup is that it allows you to sort your containers into license plates or into pallets after they have been packed, right? So they have been packed, the packing process is completed, and the containers have been closed. And now it allows you to sort those containers into different license plates. Um, Based on certain criteria that you set. And then after, so what it does is that um, it sorts them into positions, and each of these positions will be represented by a license plate. And then after that, you can then, once that's processed down, you can close it and create work to have them moved into the final destination before your shipment. Okay, so we'll look at first some of the setup as a first step. So there's quite a few setup steps, and then after that we will go in and look at some of um, the actual process, the actual GMO process of the workflow. So that will be step two. But first of all, let's take a look at some of the setup steps that we need to look at. So I'll just go in and go through them very quickly. So first of all, you have to have a wave template set up. Just a general wave template. I haven't changed the one that's available here in Warehouse 62 in our Contoso demo setup. So you can see we're using automatic wave creation set to yes, process wave at release to warehouse, um, and automate the wave release. So basically, it's creating and processing a wave for every time you release your order to warehouse, right? So that's the wave template. Then we have on our work user, I have, as you can see, I'm just using my standard Julia Funderburg. So you have to set up a worker. Obviously, we'll come back to the packing policies here. So, but you can see I will have assigned. Well, actually, I was going to assign a different packing profile. So I've created one that's called sort here. It's not mandatory that I have to put it here. I can always just choose this is just defaulting it, but I'm creating those packing profile and container packing policies that it's going to use here. So I'm using that for Julia Funderburg, but hang on a second. So, and we're using Warehouse 62, so that has been made available for that worker. That's the only thing. So these two you'll see, you'll come back to that, how you create those, and then you can always add it to the worker if you want to do that. Location types. So we'll have to create a location type that we call sort or sorting, whatever wording you want to use there. At least use one location type there. Then once you've done that, then we want to go to our warehouse management parameters, and on the general here on the sorting location type, then select that sorting location type that you just created there. And then after that, you also need to create a location profile. So let's see, I've created one here that's called sort, and you can see as a location type, I'm associating that location type that I just created to my location profile, and then make sure that you're using license plate tracking and allow mixed item set to yes typically also, right? So you'll have these two set there. Then the next one would be location. So I've created, let's see, one location here. I think I call it sort one. So in warehouse 62, then I've created one location called sort one, and I've associated now that location with my location profile ID that I just created. Okay. Next step. So now here we have to create an outbound sorting template. So you can see here, there's a few things to this one. So as you can see, I created one that's called auto work and one that's called manual. For my auto work here, I'm using, so the outbound sorting template type is a container using my 62 warehouse and my location sort one, so the location that I just created. Here in sort verification, you can create, if you want to do an extra validation or verification, you can choose position scan, for example, if you want to have them reconfirm the position. I'm not doing that, so I avoid that extra step. But then we want to have this create work on position close. And I'm setting, in this case, my position assignment to automatic, which means that I get a little help after I created the first position to have the sim guide me to the correct positions instead of every time manually have to select which position that I'm choosing. If you don't want that, you simply you set it to manual, and then you manually have to select the position for every time without any help. So that's one of the important areas on this one. The other ones are more related to the wave steps code. So as you can see, they're grayed out when I'm selecting a container. That's because I select a container up here. But one thing that is important here is that if I want to break these positions by a certain criteria, then I can do that. So if I go to my edit query here where I have, and then to sorting, then in my example, I'm trying to break by account number, so by customer account. So I want a different license plate basically for each of my customers. I don't want to mix customers. But I think if you look at the example setup example in on our learn pages, they're using I think a carrier or a carrier service air. So it could be a certain carrier, UPS or FedEx. Maybe you want to separate pallets for these, or maybe a certain carrier service. I think that demo example is using air or by truck or something like that. So they're using the carrier service to break up or to group your license plates, which are actually grouping positions, but there's a license plate to each position, right? But this is where you are creating that grouping feature. So once I do that, then on my outbound sorting template breaks, you can see I have to then use my account manager, and I actually have to check this one that says group by field. So I'm going to try to group it per customer account number, see if that works. All right. So that's the outbound sorting template. The next step I need to set up a container packing policy, and you can see I already had created one. So one of the keys here, obviously, to select the warehouse. Um, and you want to select the default location for sorting. So I'm selecting my location sort 1, the waiting unit that I'm gonna use. Um, but then here the container release policy. So it's very important then you select this assign container to outbound sorting position. Otherwise, it's only allowing you to make it available for the final shipping location or so on. So it won't show you that sort 1 location. So make sure that you select the assign container to outbound sorting position there. Next one, let's see the packing profiles. Yeah, so after I've created my container packing policy, as you can see, then you create a packing profile called sort, or I created one for warehouse 62 and called sort, and then I associate it with my container packing policy that I just created. And assign it to the default container type that I want to use in that example, right? Next, so now we actually have to go to our what the setup have to be on our mobile devices and so on. So first of all, I want to have a work class called sorting. So you can see already, I should have created one already. Let me just check. Yeah, so there's one called sort. So you can see there's a work order type now that's called sorted inventory picking. So I create a work class ID for that purpose. Right? So that's one mandatory step there. And let's see, let's just get these up and running here. So I have mobile device menu items. So there are 2 I need to create. So there's this palette build process. So you can see, so you have to create your palette, give it a name, given mine is called palette build name and title palette build, and the mode has to be indirect. Then in the activity code, you have to go and find the outbound sorting. Right, so this bit here, you have to go find the outbound sorting here. And then here on your outbound sorting template ID, you're then selecting that auto work, right? And remember that sorting template is the one that's assigning the warehouse location, but also how you want to make, right, your outbound sorting. Okay. So that's for the palette build, and there's a second mobile device item that you need to create, and that's the load from sorting. So I'm creating one that's called load from sorting. We are creating work. Remember when we close when we're done with the sorting? So it's simply using existing work, and therefore it's the same process as any existing work where you can use user directed, system directed user grouping, and so on. Right? So I'm using user directed, making sure that I'm associating that work class ID, the sort that I just created a couple of steps back, right? So once I've created those 2 mobile device menu items, the load from sorting and the palette build, then obviously I need to add them to my mobile device menu. So I'm creating one menu here that's called pack. And in there I have my palette, I've added my palette build, and I've added my load from sorting there. So it should be available. So actually now let me just get up here to, oh, hang on. Go back here, you can see I have a pack menu here. And if I click into pack, I have my palette build here, and I have my load from sorting in here, right? Next thing, almost done here. Then we have to create our locations directives. So we have a work order type now that's called sorted inventory picking. Right, so you have to select your sorted inventory picking there, and once you do that, I'm just creating you only need a put because we know the location where it is, right, from the sorting location. So it's only a put to the final destination. So I'm just doing anything here, and then the put is to Bador. In my example here, you can see I've selected warehouse 62, location Bador, but it could obviously be any location that you want to direct it to. So this one is just for I've created one for single item, and then I've also created one for multiple items, right? So the exact same scenario, just for multiple items. And then, of course, the last thing also is the work template. So we also have a work order type now called sorted inventory picking. In there, just standard, you have to create a pick and a put, at least there, and associated with your work class ID that we had created earlier, right? So I believe that should be all the setup that we would need to create it. So you can see there's a few steps there: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 steps there, setup steps that you need to go through. So once you do all those, we should be able to actually go through a process of process flow of how it works. So that'll be the next step. I'll just stop this video, and we'll take the process flow in a separate video. All right.